Hello guys and welcome once again to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Greg and I'm going to be running you through my predicted lineup for our midweek Carabao Cup fixture against Leicester. It's that busy December period, which means normally a lot of squad rotation to try and keep players fit when you have midweek games. Obviously it's also a cup game, which can mean squad rotation. That said, the big thing we have to contend with is this huge injury list, which means we're essentially just throwing out whichever players can play in some sort of semblance of formation. Obviously, we've got classic wingers like Bernard and to an extent Iwobi when he plays out wide is more of a traditional winger playing in this sort of 4-4-2 wide midfield role. It's not perfect, but it means we've got quite a tough job predicting this lineup, generally anyway at the moment. And I imagine as well we're taking this cup, both us and Leicester, very seriously. So I imagine it'll be a strong squad. Obviously for Leicester, I don't think people are realising that the title's probably not that realistic for them. They probably don't have that set in their sights, and the Carabao Cup for them is quite a realistic bit of silverware. Obviously they've had quite a lot of success in this cup in the past, so they'll be throwing everything at this. For us, obviously we've been given that horrible FA Cup draw. We're not going to be challenging for the Premier League title, obviously. So this is our best chance at silverware, and we are absolutely desperate for it. So I imagine we'll be feeling a very strong squad here. In fact, let me just fill you in on the injury list we have at the moment. That is probably a good time to do it before we jump in. The news on Sidibe and Sigurdsson is that they will be last minute news. Obviously, Sidibe has this illness. We don't know if he'll have recovered properly, and Sigurdsson, we also don't know if he'll have recovered from his injury, his knock. That'll be decided very late, and I will probably include those two in this team if I choose to actually put them in the 11. Whereas for Delph and Digne, it's a definite no. And obviously Walcott and Schneiderlin are still out for a medium amount of time, and Gabamin and Gomez are out for the foreseeable. So this is going to be tough to predict, as I said, but let's try and go position by position and look at the team you might go with. So obviously that means Pickford in goal. The lack of Luca Dean means Leighton Baines is essentially our only real left-back option. I feel like Mina and Keane will probably start as centre-backs again. They haven't been too bad under Ferguson as a partnership that we've seen, and with Sidibe, marginal. I think Coleman might start on the right, obviously for a captain role in this club competition might be important to Duncan Ferguson. It's important that Sidibe is definitely fit for the game against Arsenal on Sunday. Obviously the league will be very important to get him back into his stride. So I imagine Coleman in at right back. And then the midfield, again, the only fit midfielder we have at the moment is Tom Davies, so I see him obviously starting. And with Sigurdsson, same logic as Sidibe for me. Let him kick on back in the league. Give this one again to Mason Holgate, who I think was fantastic in the central midfield role. Really surprisingly fantastic in that position against Manchester United. Those two actually ran a really tight ship in that midfield. Really dynamic, which is something we've missed for quite a long time. I know Duncan Ferguson tricked the media and tricked Solskjaer by saying it was a back five with a very condensed midfield with Iwobi and Bernard sort of coming in, but Holgate sort of surprised everyone in that central midfield role. I initially went, what is this? But very good, and I'm just going to say I'd rather have him in there than Sigurdsson when they're both at full fitness. So Mason Holgate and Tom Davies in the midfield again, due mostly to a lack of options. Out on the left, Bernard for me. He's looked off the pace recently, but the thing with Bernard is just getting him a string of games to get his confidence up, I think. Again, lack of options. On the right, I'm going to go a little different and say Richarlison's going to play there. And you'll understand that later when I get up top. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin's one of those two strikers. And I think with all the controversy we've heard midweek, obviously with the substitution on and off, I think this is probably a golden chance that's going to be given to Moise Kean. Personally, I'm not a fan of the way it was handled, taking him off after having brought him on. I don't think it's a good thing to do for a young player's confidence. I think he's such a big talent in Europe. one of the real sort of potential youngsters for the future. And you don't want to taint his relationship with the club early on. However Duncan Ferguson handled it after the game is the important thing, but you could tell from the look on his face at the time he wasn't prepared for it. He didn't like it. Whether he was working hard enough, I just don't think it was handled right in the way it was handled. I don't think it needs to be catastrophised like a lot of the media have. It's not a severance between Michael Keane and the club, Moise Keane and the club. But I think Duncan Ferguson might use that to try and spur him on. It's a kind of psychological thing Duncan Ferguson would do to me. He'll say, right, that happened. You're going to get the start here, and just kick on and show us what you can do. So for me, it's Moise Keane and Calvert-Lewin up top, with Richarlison being pushed out onto the right. So that's essentially the team for me. Jordan Pickford in goal, Baines at left back, Mina and Keane as the centre backs, with Coleman at right back, Bernard, Holgate, Davies and Richarlison, the next bank of four, and Calvert-Lewin and Moise Keane up front. What do you guys think about that? Would you have Moise Keane in the team at all, or did you think it was warranted taking him off? He's clearly not working as hard as the other players. Would you throw Gylfi Sigurdsson straight back in, or do you think Holgate's good for now in that position that he's been put in? And would you stick with this 4-4-2 if it's working like this? Let me know what you guys think, and let's hope that we're in the next round for the Carabao Cup.